Hey everyone, and welcome to the Overland Podcast.
Hi,
I'm
y'all.
here with my beautiful wife, Gia, and co-adventurer and travel partner,
Yeah.
and pretty much do everything together. And she's joining me tonight as we had a little bit of a cancellation. Uh, Somebody had to cancel on us, but she's filling in, and I appreciate you taking time to do that, babe.
Of course. It's more time with you.
Yeah, it's fun, and plus
And
we have a lot to talk about.
we've done a lot lately.
Yeah, we have done a lot lately. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here on the Overland Podcast.
Overland podcast.
Here we go. So this podcast tonight is sponsored by Ultralight Sex. We are good friends with Luke and his wife. They are here in Arkansas and have been making sacks and different ways to organize your adventure since 2019. So check them out at ultralitesacks.com and see what they can do for you. They have all kinds of stuff, and I can put it up on the screen here. They have backpacks, they have ecolite sacks, they have gear haulers, they have all kinds of stuff that they can make. So just give them a call. Roll
They
Top,
are awesome.
and these right here are my favorite, the roll top compression sacks, which are ultralight in DCF, and I love it. They pack away all of our stuff, and we absolutely love them. So give Luke and his wife a call. Ultralitesacks.com. That's ultralitesacks.com, and they will help you out any way that you can. We used some of their stuff a couple weekends ago on the KATY Trail and got to try a few things out. Plus, used a few things on the Scout Trail trip of the season. So it was nice to get out there and use a few of their things and see how they would work for us. So anyway, so how you been doing, babe? You doing good?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
it's the weather is was pleasant this afternoon and evening when we went
Yeah.
outside and practiced setting up a new tent. The breeze was blowing. It's a gorgeous evening watching the clouds skitter across the sky.
Mm-hmm.
It's Spirit Week at school, so
Spirit
that's
Week,
fun.
Red Ribbon Week.
Yeah, and
Yeah, we're saying no to
Halloween is
drugs
on.
this week.
Yeah,
Just this week.
say, just this week. But
Just this
say
week.
yes to candy because
Yeah.
Halloween's coming.
Halloween's coming in 2 days.
I know. And I was talking to another teacher today. They said that they institute a candy tax that if the kids want to eat candy in their classroom that they have to bring candy to the teacher. And
I
I
like
was
that.
seriously, I know, I thought that is such a good idea. A
That is a
candy
good idea.
tax.
It's a good way to get some chocolate.
I know. So
So I wonder for our listeners out there, I know what we do, but I wonder for our listeners, are you a turn the porch light on and welcome the children? Or are you a porch light off and hide in the basement kind of person? I know what we do. Um,
I didn't used to do what we do.
yeah, we're a hide in the basement kind of people. Actually, this Thursday night is the only night that we have that um, we don't have anything going this week. So we're actually going to use that as a date night
Yeah.
and go out. And while everybody else is gathering candy, we're going to be doing some fun stuff
Go get
together.
some, yeah, 50-cent corn dog at Sonic.
Yeah.
Well, happy
Hey,
Halloween.
that sounds like a good date night to me.
Yeah. I mean, every Halloween I used to meet one of my friends in her neighborhood and we'd pass out, we'd sit in the front yard and admire all the kids' costumes and pass out the candy. And then last year, we just hunkered down, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
We did.
Had a good evening at home. We made
Mm-hmm.
yummy food and it was great.
Yeah, our
We don't have a
neighborhood
lot. Yeah.
our neighborhood is not really one that people flock to with kids. They flock to the one that's next to us. So
Mhm.
it's really neat because that's the one that we walk in and ride our bikes in, and apparently they have a Halloween decoration competition every year.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to get over there in the evenings and the mornings to see all the scary decor and see how some people just go all out for it. Never
It's
understood
more
that.
than goodness. I mean,
Yeah.
there are some fun and some creepy displays. There's
Mhm.
one where they have gotten all these dolls. I
Mm.
mean, it's got to be probably 50 dolls, 30 dolls. I don't know how many
Mhm.
dolls, little dolls, all kinds, and they look all. They're not. They're just spooky because it's the number of dolls. It's not like they go out in blood and have done anything to them, but they just look like dolls that they've, all different kinds of baby dolls. And the baby dolls are all have their arms up and they're carrying, and you can. It looks like a body wrapped
Carrying a
in.
body. Mhm.
It looks like a body wrapped in
Yeah.
plastic, and
And
it
it's
is.
like baby dolls carrying a full
Yeah,
size person
yeah,
body.
carrying a
Yeah.
full size. They have all these baby dolls, and then they're all carrying the body together, and that is genius and creepy.
Yeah.
Is
It is. It
um,
is. Well, I tell you what, I love this time of year. I love the time when Halloween comes around because
uh,
it's kind of a good and a bad. The good is the fall weather's coming. The cooler mornings are here. The cool middle of the day hasn't really got here yet. We had about 1 week of it,
yeah, and
but
we're
the
like
cooler
upper
weather.
80s, low 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, the cooler weather's coming. So we know when Halloween gets here, cooler weather's coming. But the one thing I do not like is when we fall back on time, and we actually do that this coming weekend. And I don't really like that because the sun
It's,
starts coming up real early in the morning, but it goes down about 5 or 6 o'clock in the
I
afternoon. And I'm not a big fan of
know.
that.
It just makes the evening seem so dark for so
Short.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the time after work is very short. So
Yeah, where we can actually get outside and enjoy it.
yeah, we'll have to use our headlamps a little more, our bike lights a little more, and just to
Uh-huh.
enjoy the dark, because
Yeah.
they keep saying that they're going not that they're going to change that, but they just hadn't got around to it, I don't
Mm-mm.
guess.
No. But yeah,
So
is that when the weather starts turning, that means that it's hiking season again. It's
hiking
hiking
season again.
and getting outside and doing things where you don't worry about broiling or roasting in the heat. Because
Mm-hmm.
that is one thing that I don't enjoy hiking in hot weather.
No, me either.
I don't find it fun.
It's not fun.
Mm-mm.
It's not fun. But one thing that we did do a couple weeks ago, we actually went on our first bikepacking trip, and I
Oh, yeah,
kind of
we did.
wanted to talk about that a little bit. We discovered this trail, the KATY bike packing trail, bicycle trail. It's a rail trail up in Missouri that goes pretty much between Kansas City and St. Louis. And we
Mm-hmm.
discovered this trail several months ago when your niece,
Yeah,
Chloe,
Chloe.
went on it with one of her friends, and she was telling.
Yeah.
And so we decided to check that out, build us some bikes and put some packs on there and go up and experience that. And we actually had a fall break for the first time this year. So we were
Mm-hmm.
able to go up and spend some time up there. Um, so when we got ready for this, it was one thing. It was kind of unnerving for me because I'd never done anything quite like this before. I'd lived out of a backpack off my feet, but I haven't traveled and lived off a bicycle before.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? What was running through your mind when you thought that we were gonna do something like this?
I was excited because I was like, it'll give us a chance to be outside and be active. But in a way where if the day gets really hot, I feel I can bike more in the heat than I can walk or hike in the heat.
Hmm.
And so it's like if it gets so hot, I can handle it. Um, I was just nervous because in school right up until the day that we left, and then the day before, like the night that we left, I was at had parent teacher conferences all day long, and prepping for a backpacking trip takes time. Prepping for a bike packing trip where we were going to be biking and then camping and then biking and then camping, I just was like, I don't have the time. I don't have the margin in my life right now and these days getting ready for it to really figure out like all of the little details of what to pack and what to put and all that. So you actually were genius in what you figured out, because Chloe and her friend, when they did it, they started in one spot and they biked a couple hundred. They didn't do the whole thing, but they did over 100 miles. Maybe I think it was like
Hmm.
140, 170. I can't remember. But they biked camp, and then they took a train back to where they started.
Hmm.
And so it was just one of those. things of that sounded awesome, but the logistics, I just was worried about. I don't have enough space in my head right now to be able to figure out like the packing and all the stuff
Mhm.
and how to make that work with the amount of time that we had, because we were only going to have, even though we had a fall break, when after factoring in travel and everything like that, we really were only going to have maybe like 2 or 3 days of biking.
Mhm.
So anyway, you came up with a very novel idea of how to fix that, so it wasn't, we were able to kind of ease our way into the bike packing.
Yeah, and we have traditionally been an overlanding podcast and talked about overlanding things, but we have also worked into the podcast and talked about things that you can do while you're overlanding. And this is we kind of mix the two.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things you talked about the train. That was one of the things that kind of drew me to this trail is is the convenience of being able to park in a place and ride your bike as far as you want to go and then hop on a train and it takes you back to your car. You don't have to stage like a lot of times when we do point to point backpacking trips, we have to stage a car. So we have a something at the end, a ride at the end to take us
Yeah,
back to the
exactly.
car. And after doing some research on it, there's 4 or 5 different Amtrak stations that you can get to, and Amtrak will load your bike for free. Then they'll take you back to where you started, and you just hop off and get back in your car. But easing into it, and this being the first time that we had ever done anything like this, I thought it would be a little bit better if we would base camp and maybe base camp and go out and come back, and then we could go the other way and go out and come back, and then maybe we can move and then go out and see how it would work. And I found a campground that's right on the trail. It's
Mm-hmm.
just east of Boonville
Like
and
literally, the trail runs through the
30
campground.
feet. We were
Yeah.
camped 30 feet from the trail. We got to
Uh
see
huh.
people come back. In fact, when we were putting the tent up, there were back bike packing people that went by, and
We
we
were
got
like,
to
oh,
see,
that's another one.
yeah, we got to see the people that were going by on their bikes.
Uh
So that
huh.
was pretty cool. And I can't remember the name of the campground. You call it? It's the
Katy Roundhouse.
Katy Roundhouse.
Wasn't
And
that
yeah, I would highly recommend that place. It was really,
oh,
really nice. The showers were
wonderful?
nice, bathrooms were nice. It was $30 a night, and that
Yeah.
was with electricity and water. So you could do it cheaper. I think it was $18 to $20 a night for the primitive camping, and it
I
was it
can
was
believe.
really nice.
Yeah, it was. So that's what the solution that Professor came up with was, rather than us camp ride down the Katy Trail back, it was use our Subaru over, our rooftop tent, camp in one
Hmm.
spot, ride one direction, and come back, camp, ride the other train, come back, camp. And then we packed up and then we drove down a little bit and then went out and back further.
Hmm.
Anyway, so that is how we handled it. And it was fantastic. It was wonderful. I loved the combination of overlanding and using our overlanding stuff and also having the bike adventure every day. Um, it was a great way because it gave us a little bit of, it gave me a little bit more room of not having to worry about like making sure that everything will fit in my bike that I need, and not having to go through every single, like,
Hmm.
come up with, every single potential thing that could happen that I need to prepare for. Give me a little bit of room, a little bit of grace.
Yeah, and it was good. A lot of people are not fans of the out and back because they say, "Well, I've already seen this area before." But to me, you get a whole different view
Yeah,
when you go out and you come back.
I've never had a hard time because trails, we know this too, like trails feel completely different when you hike it one direction versus hiking it the other. Like
Hmm.
you just, the views that you see, I mean, and you'll do loop trails. Like, I mean, in the Tetons, there's, at the national park there, there's a really famous trail that, depending on whether you hike it counterclockwise or clockwise, I mean, they recommend both. Like, you want to do the trail twice because the views that are completely different, even because, anyway, so I've never been one that was bothered by hiking out and back because you just notice things differently.
You do. You notice the scenery a lot different, and with the views that we had on this trail, you wanted to get both directions because there was no way to be able to take it all in if you were just going one direction in one time and you saw it and that was it. But I did a little research on the interwebs and got on the Googles and the interwebs and did some searching about what was the most scenic area, the best area. If you were going to go to one area, what area would you go to? And everybody suggested the town of Roachport was the most scenic area, had the most things around it. And so we stayed about 10 or 11 miles west of Roachport, about 3 miles east of Boonville. That's where this Katy Roundhouse Trail was. And it was in a really good spot. We got there, we left decently early in the morning from Northwest Arkansas, drove about 5 or 6 hours, got up there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We got everything set up, got on our bikes and rode 3 miles or so into Boonville. Went to a store or two and went to a nice little
Oh, they
bar
have
there to get dinner. It was sweet.
yeah. They have some neat restaurants. Where I think we went to Maddie's, but they have a great antique store. I
Hmm.
mean, a really neat antique store that we just had a good time poking around through.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Of course, in the evenings, a lot of the things that were there were only open for lunch, and so we didn't have a huge amount of choices. But if you needed to restock or anything like that, they had convenience stores, grocery stores, and things like that in there. The little town that we stayed in was east. What was it? I can't
It was like
remember.
Old Franklin or New
Old
Franklin.
Franklin. We stayed in Old Franklin, and to get to Old Franklin, you got to take a dirt road to get to Old Franklin. And Old Franklin actually has a an old post office, an old church, and the campground, and that's pretty much it. A few people live there, not many, but you actually have to go on a dirt going out into the country to get to Old Franklin. I don't guess I realized the farmland that we would be right in the middle of. So
Oh
we were
yeah.
right in the middle of corn, soybean, heaven.
Yeah.
So it was
And
definitely a pretty place.
it was. And one of the neat things that first night driving into Boonville is you cross, there's a great big bridge and you cross, was it the Missouri that we
Missouri
crossed?
River. Hmm.
It was really beautiful going across the river and feeling, I mean, that was a neat little challenge.
Hmm.
I enjoyed that a lot. It was just a really neat time to be on the bikes. And then also know that when you finished, you had our comfortable rooftop tent to get to.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because
And
that's also the thing. Joey is, I mean, Joey already has an iron butt. He is,
hmm.
his, his, his nether regions have already been inoculated to hard, the hard rigors of a bicycle seat. My posterior, it was not, I was a little nervous about like how my butt was going to feel. And it was just one of those where I really wanted to do, I love our active vacations and things that we do, but it was one of those where I was a little nervous about like, okay, if we have to get all, what if what if my body gives out before I need it to, before we're able to get back to before we're able to get to the train or whatever like that. So it was really nice the way that we did this. I think it gave me a chance to ease more into the whole biking for long periods of time. Because even though we're biking now several times a week, we still, our bike rides are usually like 6 miles or less,
hmm.
and that's a big, 6 miles is a pretty big, it's enough to start feeling it, but it's a pretty big difference between, 24, 25 miles, 40
Yeah, and
miles.
that was another thing that really kind of made me shy away from doing the train thing because on this trail there's no public land. You actually have to sleep, or if you're going to camp, you can camp in the city. You can camp under pavilions in a little
Hmm.
town. You have to camp in campgrounds or things
Yeah.
like that. So there's no public land. Well, there's a few
Yeah.
places. I take that
What
back.
do they
There are a
call it?
few
Wild
places.
camping.
Hmm.
Like you can't pitch a tent. You always have to have a spot, like a,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, in order to get to those places, some days we were going to have to do 28 miles or, upwards of 30 miles. And then over the 3-day period we were going to be there, we were going to have to cover about 80 something miles. in order to get to the next train station to get back to the car. And then once we got back to the car, we were going to have to ride about 15 miles from the train station back to the car. So it was logistically not going to work for us. So to combine the overlanding rig along with the bicycles, it worked out great. It worked out great. And it wasn't going to push us. I mean, the first day we did 3.5 miles twice. So we did about 7 or 8 miles. The second day we did
Yeah, I mean,
22
and
miles.
we'd gotten there late that day. We got to the
Yeah.
camp and made camp about 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's not, yeah, it was not like we had all
But the
day long.
first full day, we did 22, 23 miles, and that
Yeah,
was our longest day.
yeah, it was like 24 miles because it was like 12 miles because I made
Mhm.
us go a couple miles past the town and then turn around and go back.
Mhm.
Anyway,
But
so
yeah, that was our longest day, and
and that
the next
was a
day we
lot.
were feeling it.
Yeah.
We were feeling it. Even though one of the things that really drew me to this trail was it being a rail trail. There's no big hills to climb. There's
Uh-huh.
no big downhills, no big uphills. It's pretty much flat. But you're still having to pedal.
Oh
One
yeah.
thing that people don't realize is if you do on flat, and yeah, that draws you to it. Well, you don't have the big long downhills that you can coast. You're pretty much pedaling the whole time,
Yeah.
and so you don't have a big rest period. So, but there are
I,
benches along the trail where you can stop and take a snack. So we took food with us. We took snacks with us. We had our packs with us so we could shed all of our morning cold clothes, and that
yeah.
was really nice because we would start out dressed
The
pretty warm.
temperature was very variable.
Hmm.
It was like it would get down in the upper 40s at night, and then during the
Hmm.
day it was up in the 80s. So we're talking, yeah, 40 degrees difference each
Yeah,
day.
big difference.
Uh huh.
The weather was so nice. It was so nice as long as you were in the shade, and there were time periods when we were like, I really want to take this jacket off when I hit the sun, but when I hit the shade, it's perfect. And when I hit the sun, I'm hot. When I hit the shade, I'm perfect. So there was a few different times where we were trying to get our temperatures right, but the rest of the time the weather was really really nice. I was
Yeah.
very pleased with it. What give me your takeaway. Is it something that you would want to do again?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I loved it. I loved, yeah, I loved, okay, I'll do anything for a snack. I'll do anything for like, we're doing this and there's something interesting at the end or there's something interesting in the middle. So having, I mean, having a place like the trail go through all these little towns where we're leaving one interesting town and going to like Rocheport. And when we get to Rocheport, there is like first of all a fantastic cafe, the Meriwether Cafe. This trail follows part of the Lewis and Clark expedition, like the KATY Trail,
Hmm.
where they were. So there were all this Lewis and Clark stuff. So Meriwether is Meriwether Lewis's first name. So the Meriwether Cafe. So we ride our bikes to Rocheport. We have this amazing meal right next to the KATY Trail, and it just has on this day the parking lot was full, but they had bike rack after bike rack after bike rack outside this cafe just full of bicycles because that's how most
Hmm.
of the people were got to the spot was through biking there. So after we ate, we walked through the town and they had like they had a couple old churches, they had really pretty old houses, they had some neat little stores. So it's something where, whether it's a cool site in the middle of, nowhere Texas or a beautiful view or whatever, like there are little things to look forward to. And so I
Hmm.
love that kind of adventure. I love
Yeah.
that kind of something where there's a little something to look forward to. So especially if it's food,
Yeah. Well,
if there's like
the
if
very
there's
first place we got to that was significant was the train tunnel. We got to the train tunnel, which has some pretty good history to it. It talks about some banditos that took it over hundreds of years ago, thought they wasn't getting paid enough, so they stockpiled some dynamite in there and took it over
oh, but you're
until the
going through
people could go and get it.
tunnel
It's
and
a
it's just
long tunnel.
rock. It's rock and it's been blasted out of the mountain. So it's like some of it you can see they shorted up with, other materials, but some of it, I mean, it's just the mountain. You're just
Hmm.
driving through the mountain. It's so cool.
Yeah,
And
and then
then,
you cross a
oh,
nice little creek over a bridge and go right into town. It's right
yeah,
there at the town.
and then you keep going, and then you're on the Missouri River, and these
Mhm.
huge, Missouri River on one side, huge bluffs on the other side. And then the next day, like we went to one of the oldest trees in Missouri, the oldest bur oak, isn't it? Like it's three or
Mhm.
400 years old, expected to live 100 more. And so there were just little neat things each day to look forward to that were like, okay, you just need to bike 10 miles to get there.
Mhm.
You just need to bike a
Yeah.
little bit further to get there.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
there was a wide array of people that were there too, because Roachport is one of the main places where the Katy Trail State Park has one of its entrances and parking areas, and so a lot of people would just come there for the day. You know, the first day that we were there was a Saturday, so it was very busy on Saturday. Sunday was not quite so bad, but on Saturday it was very busy, and the parking lot was full, and the cafe was full, and but it was one of the places where people actually come and spend the day. So there was people that were there on e-bikes. There was one guy that was doing the trail on a unicycle that we got to see, which was really neat. There were people that were walking, people that were running, walking dogs. But then there were the hardcore people. There were the bike packers that were
mhm,
actually just, going through. We didn't see a lot of them that had stopped. Most of them flew by us like we were standing
yeah,
still. But
yeah,
um,
exactly. It was a
yeah,
little early
they
day for them to stop.
yeah. So that's one of the things you have to think about when you're going through these little towns is how crowded it's going to be. It was really nice to get away. When we got down to the tree, which was about 9 miles east of Roachport, there was one group that was there, and that was it. It wasn't crowded
Mhm,
at all. And then going back towards the west, when we were staying at the Katy Roundhouse, the trail was pretty much empty. We would pass two or three people. It wasn't.
mhm.
It wasn't that but if you just have to keep that in mind when you're in the towns, that's where most of the people are.
And
Um,
there's all different kinds of bikers, like what you were saying, the bike packing. There were, quite a few of those. They didn't stop when where we stopped because, they had places to go. Like you're trying to get to their next destination 30 or 4 miles away
hmm
before, to camp. But, people that were out for a leisurely bike ride with their families, people that were, wearing all their sleek bike gear with their sleek, gravel bikes or
hmm
whatever, trying to, get some miles in. So I think the other thing is like whatever your expertise is, you can feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, there
Like
was all
all
kinds,
kinds.
for sure. Well, I enjoyed it. It was kind of a chance that we took, something new that we wanted to
Yeah.
do, a new experience that we wanted to try, and I think it paid off because it's one of the things that I love now, and I love looking up the rail trails and seeing where they are all over the United States because there is a whole bunch of them all over the United States that they've
Mhm.
converted from train tracks into bike trails now, and so that's become something that I think we'll look forward to doing more of,
Yeah.
and
I love it
getting out there
because you
and
can also cover more miles. Like I love hiking, don't get me wrong, but like for us to cover 40 miles is going to take at least 3 days of hiking.
hmm
For us to cover 4 miles on a bike, before, I mean, our butts may give up before Lake Zoo, but I can
hmm
do 40 miles faster than I can, biking than I can do 40 miles walking. And so I
Oh,
really appreciate
easy.
that as well.
Yeah, you can definitely
Um,
see more things in a
yeah.
shorter amount of time, and also get a good workout in. You're being active, getting out there and trying to stay healthy, and it's just another way of being able to do that. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. I did.
Yeah. And
And
then I love,
plus, being able to use our Subaru in a different
oh,
way. We cooked some meals. We made coffee every morning in the back, and we were able to take our fridge, take some food, and
oh,
have
that was wonderful.
picnics along the way. And we stopped at Bucky's on the way and picked up a few things. So, well, we had to get our, what was it, butt nuggets or something like
Bucky nuggets. Yeah.
beaver nuggets.
Beaver nuggets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beaver butt nuggets, something like that. But anyway, we had to stop and get a few things at the Bucky's there in Springfield. New one, first time I'd ever been to that one,
Oh my goodness. It
and
was like, it was
it was a
crowded.
metropolis of people. It sure
Yeah.
was. But it was nice to be able to have all that stuff: the fridge, the kitchen, the rooftop tent, and be able to take our clothes, have a shower, and things like that. So it
Oh,
was
it
it
was,
was a little bit different experience than actually doing a bike packing trip. But I think breaking it in, that's a great place to start and a great way to start.
yeah. Oh, I loved sleep. I loved our Subaru, and it made us fall in love, even more in love with our setup,
Mhm.
because this is the longest I think that we both camped in the Subaru.
Mhm.
Um, and it was we just had such a good, comfortable time. We had our chairs up, our chairs set up, and we just would sit there in the evenings and read our
Mhm.
books and chat, and we
Mhm.
just had a good time.
We actually got invited to a retirement party. Got to hear a band play for a little bit. Got some free barbecue, and then went on a night
Mhm.
ride. So that worked out really well. But
Yeah.
uh, I don't know. I liked it. I
Oh,
thought
I
it was
did too.
really good.
We
Yeah.
did the morning that we left though. That was a morning where there were like gremlins. We
Mm.
had all kinds of little issues that were like not anything major. It just was funny because we're like, where is our head? We um we put the bikes on the back right before we
Mhm.
had, what was it? Put the tent down. Was that
Mhm.
what we did?
Well, I needed to get the battery pack out, the Expion 360, so I could plug in the thing to suck the air out
Oh, that's
of the
right.
mattress.
We hadn't sucked the air out of the mattress, so we couldn't pull the tent all the way
Couldn't pull
down.
the tent down, and
Yeah,
so
we
I had to work
realized.
on that.
Yeah, we realized, do not, the tent needs to come down before we put the bikes on the back.
Mhm.
So it was just a learning experience of like what order things to be done in. And then you would set your your shoes by
Mhm.
the car, and you were saying to yourself like, don't forget your shoes, don't forget your shoes. And we leave, we get to Rocheport to ride our bikes to the big oak, and you say, have you seen my shoes? And I was like,
Mhm.
no,
I
I
knew
knew.
exactly what I had done.
I
I
knew what I,
ran
yeah.
right over our shoes. Ran
We
right over
drove
my
back,
shoes.
and I was like, okay, we gotta go get your shoes.
Yeah,
Because
we had to turn back and go get them.
oh, it was
Skip 'em.
not a big deal at all because we were only like 15 minutes away. It
Yeah.
wasn't bad at all. And you were like, oh no, it's okay, we can get them. And I'm like, I know I'll be thinking about those shoes all day long.
Mhm.
Let's go get the shoes. So we went and got them, and sure
Yeah.
enough, run right over them.
Ran right over 'em.
It
But
was, yeah, but it was just little things like that of like figuring out like the Subaru and putting camp up and everything.
yeah, and it
But
was only the second time that we had camped in it, maybe second
yeah,
time, right?
no, it
And
was because I
so
think Overland of the Americas was the first
Overland of America,
time.
yeah, was the first time and
Uh
only
huh.
time. But,
Yeah,
just after you've had a rig like I've had for 7 or 8 years, and then you get used to it, you know how things go up, you take it down, it's no big deal, and then you,
yeah.
build a new one, you start in something new, and you figure out how to put everything up and take everything down. It's a whole new experience, whole new learning experience, and I tried to go too fast, and I was ready to get on the trail and ready to be riding my bike, and I was like, "Why can't this stuff work? Why can't I just get all this stuff working?" And I put something back, and I'm like, "Well, I put that back. Now I got to take it back apart." It was just a learning experience, and
There,
oh well, whatever.
yeah, it wasn't bad. It was just, but I do, the thing that I'm also really excited about the Subaru is I can do most of it myself. And that's one thing, like when we were putting it out and packing it up, because Oki Overland is having a camp out, not this coming
Mhm.
weekend, but next weekend, that
Mhm.
while you are hunting with your dad, I plan on going to the camp out. What is it,
Mhm.
at Birds?
Birds Adventure Center. Mhm.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I need to, like, don't just do everything. Like, let me, show me what to do. Like, tell me what to do, but give me a chance to do it, because I'm going to have to do this by myself in a couple weeks.
Mhm.
And I'm a little nervous because I don't want to put anything up wrong or, break anything.
Yeah,
But,
I don't want
um,
that either.
but the FJ, I can't do it by myself. Like, there's
Mhm.
no way I can pull the rooftop tent down and latch it by myself. But I can the Subaru. I
Mhm.
can put it up myself. I can break it. I can put it down myself. I can run the stove. Like, I mean, of course, I can do the kitchen and everything, but FJ by myself. But the tent, I cannot do by myself. It's a
Yeah.
little too much. A little too high and a little too hard to pull everything down because of what we have packed in it.
Yeah.
But the Subaru I can do. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. It just, that gave me a chance to learn and practice and,
Mhm.
you know, try
Yeah.
it out. Figure out,
Practice for the future.
yes. Figure out what, like, the one thing we did notice that it has more like it seemed to have more condensation.
Mhm.
And so just
Well, and
realizing,
it won't normally have that when at the Overland of America, we it didn't have that because I had all the windows open. At when
uh-huh,
we were up there, we didn't pack a heater, and so without a heater, we had to sleep with almost all the windows closed, and so our
uh,
breathing and condensation inside it,
but
it got pretty wet. And when we got back to
oh,
your mom's, I had to open it back up, let it dry out. So
but it was so
it's pretty
dark.
fun.
I mean, it was so dark. It was wonderful. That is one thing
Yeah.
I love about the tent on the FJN and the on the Subaru is how dark they get. Oh
Yeah, that
Lord.
OVS Everest is all
Uh,
black material, and it is so dark in there. It's
yeah.
really comfortable sleep.
We've been trying, speaking of overlaying and stuff, we've been trying to figure out a good mattress for that. The
Hmm.
mattress, that's the only thing. The mattress that comes with the Everest is a little too thin.
Hmm.
Both of us, when we were sleeping at Overland in the Americas, just noticed we were like, I'm starting to feel the bottom of the tent.
Hmm.
It's a little too thin. So we put an air mattress in that had the memory foam and
Hmm.
but it doesn't fit the tent exactly. And in order for the tent to close back down, you've got to make sure you have every bit of air sucked out of that
Hmm.
for it to close down easily. So we're still kind of figuring out that mattress situation for what's going to fit in the tent. And the tent will be easy to close, but also be really comfortable for us.
Yeah, yeah,
'Cause-
that's all part of it, just figuring it out. And
mhm,
we have found a mattress. We just got to save up and get it,
yeah,
and so we're gonna do that here
yeah,
one of these days. But anyway, the backpacking trip was a success all the way around. Yeah, there were some challenges, but we made it through it, and we ended up making some great memories and just having a great time with that. I love the area, love the trail, and
uh-huh.
just loved how we did it. So I would like to go back and do it from start to finish one of these days, but that just gave me a little more confidence in being able to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
just figure out the
so
scene, you know?
yeah.
It's like a good, like, get your feet wet, taste it, you know?
Hmm.
I think I
Yeah.
love it when you're joining a community or figuring something out, like just having a chance to kind of get your feet wet and see what it's all about before having
Yeah.
to.
I like to wade into the shallow end instead of jumping head first into the deep end. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the way I like to do it. So anyway, but this past weekend, we decided to get out and enjoy the fall a little bit. You know, we have been not doing much hiking. Hiking has been one of the main things that we have done since we began our relationship. We actually met on a day that you were on a
I,
big hike with your niece, and so that's kind of been one of the things we've done since day one. But we don't do a whole lot of it in the summer. Now, this past summer we did do some backpacking up in Michigan, but in
yeah, well,
Arkansas, that's not one of the things that we do. So
yeah,
uh,
but hiking in Arkansas in the summer that doesn't happen.
no,
It's
it's not fun. It's not
Yeah,
fun
we'll do
because
short ones at like
yeah.
KATY Settlement or Lake Atlanta, which doesn't really count as hiking, but
Yeah, going
yeah.
on nice little walks. But um, so this past weekend, the weather was going to be nice. We wanted to get out early before it got up into the 80s. It was supposed to rain, but there was only
Mhm.
like a 20% chance, and it hadn't rained in like 8 weeks in Arkansas. So I was like, nah, it ain't gonna rain. And so we went up to Petty Jean Mountain, which is where we met, and we did the Boy
We
Scout
got
Trail. Uh,
PJ because her name's Petty
that's
Jean.
where we met her. We named our dog PJ because of Petty Jean. And so we went up to the Boy Scout Trail and decided to combine the Boy Scout Trail and the Seven Hollows Trail, which made it about
Mhm.
11 miles. And that was going to be our first hike of the season. And that's a good one. That's a long one. And I haven't been on a pretty significant walk since I've injured
Uh-huh.
this past summer in a motorcycle wreck. So this was going to be a challenge for me. And I
Yes.
was I was worried. I was worried.
We were we were lying in bed that Friday night and both of us admitted to the other, I'm nervous. Like,
Yeah.
and normally that is not something when we the last time I was nervous hiking was when we backpacked Pictured Rocks just because it was new and it was the longest
Mhm.
backpacking that we'd done. And I was nervous then, just wondering how's my gear gonna work and do we have everything that we need. But I was nervous,
Mhm.
and because I was, it just been a while since we've done it.
Yeah, I was nervous just because my foot was going to hurt. I knew my foot was going to hurt, and just figuring out what to do to make my foot not hurt. was just going to be a challenge. We were going to end up doing the first couple miles in the dark because we wanted to get out of there by noon.
Mm-hmm.
Doing 11 miles by noon is a pretty good choice because most of the time, in fact, the people that we go with don't hike more than 10 miles a day. And that's usually kind of what we shoot for is around 10 miles. We have done twice that much one day
Mm-hmm.
because we had to, not because
Yeah.
we wanted to, but it was just one of those things where just worried about getting staying on the trail, foot hurting and things like that. But we love this trail. I had never done this. I'd never done the Boy Scout trail before, but you had done it. Um,
I done it. That's yeah. Like the day that we met is when I done it with my niece Chloe, and PJ's in my lap. If you can hear her
yeah,
snoring,
here.
is it too loud?
No, she's fine. That's fine.
Okay, because that's all I hear.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of the things I told you, as I was nervous because it's a hard trail. It's not the hardest. We've done harder ones, but it is. It's not just a flat walk in the park. And then also the first time I did it, it got hot. It got into the 90s,
Hmm.
and it was hot and it's hard. And I just remember like the last couple miles just being, uncomfortable and just gearing up for like, okay, this is going to be hard, even, and I was in shape when I did it. It's not like the difference is, oh, I was out of shape when I was in shape. No, I was in shape the first time I did it. And it still is difficult. And just
Hmm.
realizing that's part of this kind of adventure that you go on, is that you sign up for stuff and it's good and it's fun and it's this kind of wholesome enjoyment where you feel powerful at the end, but it's hard. And so just reconciling yourself to your fate of like, there's going to be discomfort and it's going to be
Yeah.
hard. You're going to make it. It's going to be okay. But there are going to be moments on the trail that you're going to be like, is this, I'm good. I told you on the trail, I said, I'm going to be so glad when this is over.
Yeah. You did
we, got
mention
back,
that.
we go back to the car and you're like, are you glad? I
Yeah.
mean, I loved it. I had a great time, but it was hard.
It is. It was hard. It was hard. It's not flat. There are some things you climb, some things you go down. A lot of rocks, a lot of roots,
Oh, yeah.
and it's typical Arkansas. A lot of rocks, a lot of roots, but the scenery is really good. We
Oh,
missed
it's
out on a
beautiful.
little bit because we went in the dark on some of the good
Hmm.
parts. But when the sun started coming up, we got into the canyons right behind the lodge, and that was really nice. We got on
Hmm.
the right before we got on the Seven Hollows, it started to rain. Of course, I said, it's only 20% chance it's not going to rain. But yeah, sure enough, it started raining, which
Oh, it's
that
perfect.
wasn't bad. It was actually really enjoyable. I enjoyed that. So if you haven't done the Seven Hollows, it's actually one of the most touted, highly touted in Tim Urt's book. He really brags about it. The rock scenery is outrageously beautiful, and when you
It
go in the
has to
spring,
be.
there's a lot of water that you have to cross. There was not much water we had to cross because it was so dry. But there's a
There's
couple
natural
sketchy
beauty.
places if you do it. If you do it, let's see, we were doing it counterclockwise. There's a couple sketchy places you have to go down. It's a lot of
Oh,
slick
I did
rock.
fall. I
She
hurt
did fall
I
once.
did fall.
So both the times we have done that trail together, you've fell in different places.
Okay, that time, this last time I fell because we were going down sketchy places on a rock and my foot hit a wet spot on a rock and just out from underneath
Yeah.
me.
Hmm.
The first time I fell was just because I didn't lift my foot up high enough to
Yeah.
make it
You fell.
over.
You tripped over a cross tie or something like that. I think.
Something, tree root crust, I don't know. But yeah, I biffed
Yeah.
it. I biffed it. So um it's it's a hard it's a good trail, but Seven Hollows is beautiful, but it's not beautiful because of the far out. Petit Jean is known for so many views that you can either have of the mountains, the valleys, the river, whatever. The views, it's the bluffs.
Hmm.
It's a little bit different on Seven Hollows. So
Yeah. It's a really nice trail, and if you haven't got that on your list, you need to put that on your list. It's not in the same ballpark as like Eagle Rock Loop or anything like that, but it is a really nice trail if you wanted to get
yeah,
out there and do like 5 or 6 miles, and it is very popular. There is a lot of people that walk that park and just walk to the natural bridge and turn back because it's like a little over a mile to get there and back. And
Hmm.
so there's quite a few people there, and it's right across the street from uh, Bear Cave, which is
Uh-huh.
extremely popular. A lot of kids, and so it's one of those places where we didn't see a single person for like the first 8.5 miles, almost
No,
9 miles.
we didn't see any people until we
Not one.
got Hollows. Yeah.
Not one until we got Seven Hollows. So
And
it's a really nice place. Of course, Petty Jean is the most popular state park in Arkansas, and plus they were having a hot air balloon something,
I
and it
know I
was
want to,
Saturday, very
but we,
very busy, very busy.
yeah.
And we
The
didn't
one
see one hot air balloon, not one.
No, I know. I was disappointed. I really wanted to see a hot air balloon. Disappointed. But it was funny. I have to tell you, it was my pride. So by the time we got to Seven Hollows and we're coming back and started running to a whole bunch of people, we had already been hiking 10 miles. I'm not
Hmm.
like, we'd already been hiking quite a few miles.
Yeah,
And so these people, like, we're like, I mean, and they don't realize we had
they were
left.
like, "I like your trekking poles."
I know, but okay, and plus by that time when we started seeing people, because we got back to our car before noon. So when we started, and everybody that we passed is like, good morning, because we're passing people at like, 10, 11 o'clock. Okay. And y'all, I'm looking rough. I mean, I
Mm.
love hiking, but after 10 miles of hiking up mountains, down mountains, up mountains, all that, I'm not like, I'm glistening, but
Yeah,
I look rough. Like, that's actually one of the things when I asked Joey, I'm like, what was your first impression of me when you met me? Because I just hiked this trail. And he's like, you looked real hot and
you
sweaty.
were
Like,
hot,
you looked real,
like
you looked real
sweaty
hot.
hot.
Wait. It's always so humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe I should ask what I look like on the second time you met me. But anyway, so these people were passing and they've only been hiking for maybe a mile, half a mile. Like they just
Hmm.
left their cars and we're walking back and it's a loop trail. Seven Hollows is. So it's 4.5 miles. So even if yeah, we'd hiked the entirety of the trail before we saw them, it still looked like we'd only hiked like maybe
About
three
4 miles with big
miles. And
packs on, and
I was
yeah,
looking rough.
it was
My
great.
feet were dragging. I was a little tired, and
Yeah.
because it is a hard, it's a tiring trail. And 10 miles is about the spot where if I haven't stopped and if I haven't stopped yet, I need to stop. I need to rest and make myself rest. I need to make myself drink some water. I need to make myself eat to get some calories in because I start dragging. And then when I start dragging too much, I'm not having fun. It's anyway. But we're passing these people and they're all like fresh and I'm looking like rough and I look like and I didn't want him to think I'd only been hiking 3 miles.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm doing the Boy Scout trail. Yeah. Like they were like, be safe. And I'm like, yeah, I've been like doing the Boy Scout trail already. It was
Yeah, we
pride.
passed like 70-year-old women that were out there
I
and like,
know.
beautiful morning, ain't it? And we're like, oh my gosh, we've been out here for 6 hours.
I know. I didn't want people to think I'd only been out here for 3 miles, and that's what I look like. I want them to realize I've hiked this whole like I started on
Yeah.
the other side of Mather Lodge and went across the mountain. Like
It was awesome. I loved it.
it was my pride.
And ever since then, my calves have been screaming about what in the world are you doing? You haven't done this in a while. Why did you have to walk so far on the first time of the year? And so, anyway, as
And it
much as
wasn't like
we've been doing, riding, walking, whatever, running even, it wasn't anything compared to that. So, it's nice to be able to throw something a little different in there. Our packs were right at about 12 pounds with food, water,
what.
and a little
And
extra clothes.
that was another reason we were nervous because we weren't expecting to see any water. And
Hmm.
that's a lot like packing enough water for that long and just thinking that was another reason we want to hike early because we wanted to not be in it for the heat of the day because
Hmm.
worrying about water and that was one thing both of us finished with plenty of water which I was grateful for it it did mean that we carried more in our pack but that was another reason we were nervous about like
Yeah.
okay the water situation.
it was nice. So,
Yeah.
that trail is really slow because there's no. We passed one guy that was running. I don't know how he was trail running on that trail because of
I
all the
don't
roots
either.
and the rocks. I really don't understand how he was doing that.
Okay,
It
and
wouldn't
that
be safe for ankles, I wouldn't think,
oh,
but uh,
the on the
it's a
okay,
slow trail.
yeah, on that exactly. This idea of like, okay, like when I'm hiking, I can get 3 miles in. That trail, it's like 2 miles an hour, 2.5 miles.
Two 2 miles an hour is pretty fast on that one.
Yeah, it's
It's pretty
just
slow.
because you have to, for me especially, I feel like I have to look, I mean, at every footstep, like every footfall, like where's my foot going? And especially it feels like that. Like when you go down this, like, because the bluffs, the really pretty bluffs, when you're doing it counterclockwise, are the first thing that you encounter. And it
Hmm.
doesn't feel like the ground is as crazy then. And then you get to a spot at the lower end of the loop where you go up and you're hiking more on like bedrock, like the rock, bedrock, but at the top of the, mountain or
Hmm.
whatever. And then it kind of descends. And that's where I fell, like when it descends
Hmm.
down. And then it feels like for the, like the rest of the way up until about a half mile of the car, it is just rock. That is,
Hmm.
it's not flat rock that you want. It's just like rock turn side, it's just rocky, 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 rocky. And so I, especially on that part, just have to really, really watch each footfall. And
Hmm.
you just get tired of having to be so careful and pick your way. Well, at
Yeah.
least somebody else
Yeah.
may enjoy that.
It's you can't go out there and do 3.5. Like I said, the guy who was trail running, I was shocked when he came up on us and he was running. I'm like, dude, I don't
Uh,
know how you're doing this because
he's
I'd turn and
probably
break an ankle within 100 yards.
He's probably doing what I used to do, and I only run when I see people.
Oh, he's probably
Yeah.
laying out there waiting for somebody to come get him. It's been 3 days now.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a good trail. But we're preparing for fall. We've got a lot of things planned, and quite a few places that we want to go. Put the bike packs on there, put the backpacks on there, and mix that in with our overlanding. And it's just a good way to do it. Good way to get out there. Good way to get some exercise, stay fit, and stay healthy, and just be in the outdoors. And that's what we love to do. So that's what we did, and it was
Mhm.
a good couple weekends in a row, and
Mhm.
really enjoy it. Now this coming weekend, you've got a women's retreat kind of planned. You're going down to the spa city in Hot
Girls trip.
Springs, girls trip.
It's
Um,
my sister and some friends, my niece. We're gonna have a little girls trip to Hot Springs and
yeah, I'm gonna
got
be
an
working
Airbnb,
all
staying on the
weekend.
lake,
Hmm.
and then gonna have some time at. We heard that Oaklawn has a new spa that
Hmm.
we're gonna check out. Because y'all, I like it all. I like the city. I like the country. I like the hiking. I like the biking. I like I like the indulgent, splurgy stuff too. I can't even experience that. I'll say no to unless it involves a tight space, and then I'm out. I'm not. That's not my.
Exactly. No spelunking for me.
Yeah, I
I'm
did
out.
that. Done it. I've done caving, and that was good. That was fun, and I'm done.
Well, that'll be fun. And then the next weekend is the Okie Overland Camp Out at Birds Adventure Center. And if you have a free weekend on the second weekend of November, hope you get out there and enjoy that and join us for
Yeah,
that.
and
Well,
you're gonna be working this weekend, and then you're gonna be hunting.
working, then hunting, working, then hunting. And then after that, it's busy, busy, busy all the way till the end of the year. Pretty excited about some things. Over Thanksgiving, we're going to Albuquerque, going to experience some Sandia Peak Mountains there, and a lot of good food. Over Christmas, we're going to Big Bend again with Okie Overland and quite a few friends. We've already got our uh, spots reserved on the South Rim and the East Rim for our backpacking trip there, and I think
Hmm.
it's going to be extremely fun. I think
Yeah.
we got some good trips coming up. So anyway, thank you for joining us on the Overland Podcast on behalf of my wife. Thank you for joining me, babe.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
inviting me to join you, babe.
It was super fun and really good to sit and talk to you while you're in the other room. So that's
Mhm.
always fun. Hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening to the Overland Podcast. Make sure and check out ultralightsax.com, the sponsor of this podcast. And we will be back same time, same channel next week. And we'd love to hear from you. Make sure and get on there and sign up for automatic updates when we do our podcast. You can follow us on any of the podcast platforms, and we would love for you to see you there. Until then, look out for number 1 and don't step in number 2. We're out. Here we go. Boom. And I guess it's off. There we go.